Hi, Shannon here from House Improvements. Today we're going to give you a video, and this video today is going to be about laying out and building a wood stud wall. Okay, so to start out with, basically what we're doing, we're just doing a mock-up today. We don't have an on-site situation where we can do this video at the present time, so we've just set up in the garage here, and we're going to build a temporary wall just for demonstration purposes. Basically, we're going to have a 12-foot long wall by 8 foot high and a little return over on this corner. But this is totally for this demonstration of this video so that we can show you how to lay out the wall as far as marking the studs out, getting everything laid out on the wood, and then we're going to show you cutting the studs and fastening them in place and standing the wall up. So to start with, I've got on any exterior wall, and some interiors as well, you're going to have 3 plates. The plate is the bottom and top pieces of framing that the studs are attached to. So if you can envision, you know, you've got bottom plate that's sitting down on the floor, you've got studs running up from it, you've got a top plate on top of all those, and then you're going to have a double top plate or a second plate on top of that. And basically that second plate is so that at any intersections of walls you can tie the walls together good and solid, because you can actually lap the top plate over the first plate of the wall and vice versa to make the good secure joints. So I'm going to start out, I'm going to show you, we're going to mark our walls out at 16 inches on center. 16 inches on center and 24 inches on center are your most common framing methods. You know, it just depends in your area what they call for, or possibly the situation that you're actually framing for. So we're going to use 16 inches just for our demonstration. So I've got right here on the sawhorses, I've got the bottom plate and the top plate sitting here, and these are the plates that I'm going to mark out the 16-inch centers on. So I'm going to start here from my right-hand end. I'm going to put these 2 plates tight together. They're standing up on edge. I want to make them flush down here on the right-hand end. Okay, and I'm going to hook my tape at that end and measure to the left, from right to left. So now the most important thing to remember is when you're laying this out, whether it's 16s or 24 inch on center, most tape measures have these increments kind of marked out here. On my tape, the 16-inch increments are, they have a red square around them. So that is my first 16-inch mark right there. But to actually get the stud in the center of that mark, I need to measure back from it 3/4 of an inch. And this is where my mark will be to line up the edge of the studs as I install them. So as long as I'm hooked on the end, I want to always measure back that 3/4 of an inch. The reason being is that, as you can imagine, as we have the studs along here in the wall and you get to anywhere where your joints in your drywall or your plywood or anything like that are going to be, you want that joint to end up on the center of a stud. And most of our sheet goods are in 8 foot or 2 foot type increments. So this way, when you've put your plywood on, if this wall was laying on the ground, you've put your plywood on flush to this end, and you stretch it out here, it's 8 feet long, it should hit the center of that stud at 8 feet. Whether you're using 16-inch centers or 24 inches, that will work out. If you were to mark the lines right at the 16-inch interval and put the stud here, your plywood's not going to hit every time. You're going to be cutting sheets all the time. This just speeds things up and is less cutting for when you come to assembly for sheeting. So again, basically what I'm doing, I'm hooking right on the end of the wall. I'm coming back to my right-hand side 3/4 of an inch from the 16-inch interval. I'm putting an X on the left side of that mark. The X indicates where the stud will be placed, on which side of the line. So again, my tape's still hooked down there. I'm going to 32 inches, which is my next 16-inch measurement. Coming back 3/4 of an inch. X on the left. And I'm just going to continue that all the way down these 2 plates here. And again, on my tape measure, they're all marked out handy right in red, so it's very easy at a glance to know exactly where I've got to go. Okay, so once I've got those all on there, I'm going to take my speed square and I'm going to square that line across so it's transferred on both plates at the edge. And I'm going to also transfer the X onto the second plate as well. So I'll go all the way down there. And as we go along, you're going to see exactly why we need these marks on there and how it all comes to be in the end of framing this wall up. Okay, so I've got all those marks transferred there. Now I'm going to lay these down flat, and I'm actually going to transfer that same mark onto the flat edge here. Just quickly on both of them. This layout's some of the most important stuff you're going to do, because if you get it wrong, you start framing the wall and get it half done and then realize it's wrong or in the wrong positions. You're going to have to go back and start changing a bunch of stuff. So you want to make sure that you've got these all right, exactly where you want them. And obviously this wall that we're showing here right now today in this video is just straight stud work. There's no windows, no doors, nothing in it. So it's just a straight stretch of wall. The speed square is very handy for this type of work because it has a lip back here on the one side that you can easily put against the edge of your wood, and it automatically squares you up. You aren't trying to get an edge flush like on a large framing square. Okay. So we've got those all marked out, and we're ready to, what we're going to do is we're going to actually frame the wall on the ground, flat on the ground, on the floor. And once we have all the studs fastened in, then we're going to erect the wall. We're going to stand it up, get it fastened in place. So I just need a couple seconds to get that done. Okay, so once you've marked out your plates, you want to then figure out the height of your wall, total height of your wall, then subtract the 3 thicknesses of your plate, which are 1.5 inches each. So you're going to subtract 4.5 inches from your total height. That should give you your stud height, okay? So cut all your studs, get them all cut to the height you've figured out for your project. Whether it be 2x4, 2x6, again, it's going to depend on really exactly what you're doing. If you're looking for a lot of extra insulation, you may want 2x6. Some building codes may require 2x6 for certain projects, but really it's basically the same type of technology as far as how we cut it and erect it and put it together. So, okay, so we've already pre-cut all our studs. Again, we're just doing a simple stud wall. There's no windows or doors in this wall. You can check out our other video to show you how to frame up for windows and doors using headers and everything else. This one is strictly just the basic framing. So we've got it laid out here. I've pre-laid all my studs roughly into position between the bottom and top plates so that the crowns on all the 2x4s are all going one direction. By crown, I'm talking about you want to look down the 2x4 or 2x6, whatever you're using, and you're looking for which way it's curved, this way or this way. Usually they're going to have a crown one way or the other. So if this one's not that bad, but it's slightly this way. I don't know if you can see that on the video. But you want to put all those crowns the same direction, whether it's up or down when you've got everything laying on the floor. That'll give you a much flatter wall. If you have them just all mishmashed in there, you're going to have a crown up, or a crown in, crown out. When you go to put plywood on, drywall on, it's just going to be all snaky. So try to put them all the same way. If you have any that are extremely more crowned one way or the other than everything else, try not to use that one. Pick another piece of lumber. So I like to lay them all crown up. They sit better that way until you have them fastened, and that's just my method. So I've got them all crown up. I'm going to be attaching through the top plate and the bottom plate into each end of each stud, each 2x4, with 2 deck screws. Okay, it's more normally recommended that you would use nails. In our case, we're just doing a mock-up, so the screws are going to be easier to disassemble this with. So usually you would be using nails. The reason being is their shear strength is a lot better, so it's usually much more recommended to nail it as opposed to screw it. So we're using 2 screws in each end of each 2x4 stud. If you're using 2x6s, you want to have 3 screws or nails in the end of each one, okay? And so on. Like if you were using 2x8s for some reason, you're going to have 4. So you're adding an extra nail every time you go up in the width of your framing member. So I'm going to go down here and start screwing the end of these first few in. So I'm going to, in this wall, we're flushing up our stud right to the end of the plate and right to the top here. So I've got that nice and flush here and here. You could have somebody helping you who's actually making sure these are getting straight, and one person doing the screwing, but usually one person can pretty much do it. So now I've moved away from the end, very end one. Now I'm going by the line that we marked across the face here. So I want to put the face of this 2x4. This is a bad spot to show you. Let me move to the next one. I'm going to put the face of this 2x4 to the line. You can see our X. That's where the 2x4 is going to go. So I'm going to line this up just like that. Nice and still there and flush to the top. Just like that. Same thing with the bottom screw. If you're going to do a lot of screwing, it's just, maybe I'll mention it, you may want this type of driver instead of just a normal screw gun. Normal screw gun, a lot more energy to put the screws in. It's always slipping in that. The impact driver, like this is, kind of has a bit of a hammering action, which helps keep the tip embedded in the screw head a lot better. So I'm just putting 2 in like I mentioned. I'm coming basically down. I don't know if you can get a shot of this. I'm basically coming down, you know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, putting my screw in. Same from the bottom. I'm coming up a little bit, putting it in. If this was 2x6, I'd have my 2 outside ones and 1 in the center as well. So I'm just going to go right ahead. I'm going to screw all these studs in, and then we're just about ready to stand this wall up. Something else worth mentioning is we're using 3-inch deck screws here. So when this deck screw goes into the through the plate of the 2x4 and into the stud, you're wanting to get as much into the stud as you have for thickness here. So you want a 3-inch at least. Okay, so whether you're using nails or screws, you want to use a 3-inch screw here or fastener. Okay, so we've got our wall all still laying on the floor, but everything is attached, all the studs are screwed in. We've also applied the double top plate, that's that second top plate. I've left it back 3.5 inches from this end. In our mock-up, this is going to be an outside corner once we get it standing up, so the other wall that butts into it will have a piece of plate that overlaps onto here, and we would fasten it. The double top plate you want to fasten basically at every stud. Put 2 more nails at every stud. I didn't, just because we're going to be taking this apart, but that's how many nails you would need. And then as we get down to this end, that is presumably the end of your wall, or you might might be continuing on with another chunk of wall. The double top plate, you want to leave it a couple stud spaces back from the joint in the wall so that you get a nice good overlap. It makes it a lot stronger. So by that I mean this, typically if we were going to put up another 8 feet of wall separately, we would cut this plate off back here somewhere, or here, and then the double top plate would splice across a good chunk, 4 feet of this wall and onto at least 4 feet of the other. So you want to have nice big overlaps that makes it much stronger and straighter. So I've got this one ready here. I'm going to just stand it into position. We've got our little short wall just kind of standing there right now ready to accept this longer wall. So just going to get turned around here. Okay, so typically on the job site, again, depending what you're doing, you may have a line snapped on the floor, or maybe you're lining up with the outside edge of a concrete pad or wood floor or whatever. You're going to have some kind of system already marked out to get yourself in the right position. So you're going to get your wall straight to that. You're going to get your corner all lined up. So this stud on the end of this short wall, flush to here. You want to get that all lined up. Same thing with down at the bottom. You get this all nice and flush there, tight together, and then you'll be able to screw this all together as well as go up top as you work along there, getting everything flush and screwing that double top plate in. So I'm just going to stitch the bottom of this together and work my way up the wall, getting everything nice and flush and tight. And I'm screwing about every 2 feet or so up the side of this. And you're just kind of working it along, making sure you're keeping everything nice and flush. Okay, and then when you get up to the very top, this is what that intersection was I was explaining. Here's the double top plate on this wall, and it's overlapping onto our wall around the corner. So we want to screw down through here with 4 screws, 4 nails in your case, and that'll tie this corner together. Okay, so we've got the wall all standing up here. We've tied our corner together. In a normal situation, this would be a little more solid than that. If you are doing this on site, you may want to add some braces for wind and that sort of thing, where you would tack it to the wall and maybe stake it to the ground or to a fence if there's one close by or something like that, just to take some of the wave out of it. It'll also help you straighten it out. Something else we didn't talk about, if this was an exterior wall, say you're building a shed or maybe a small addition on your house or something like that, a garage, before you stood these walls, you probably want to put your sheeting, your outside sheeting on. So whether that be plywood, OSB, whatever the case is, you would have your wall laying on the ground, just as we did with all the studs in. Square up your wall section, and the simplest way to do that is to measure diagonally corner to corner. And once that diagonal measurement is the same, you know that your wall is sitting square. Once you've got that, then you could start putting your sheeting on the wall while it's laying down. Just makes it a lot simpler. With the sheeting, just remember stagger your joints, at least 2 stud space if you can from the row below it. Get that all on there. You're going to have a little heavier wall and a lot more solid wall to stand up. One thing to remember is wind factors. If you're standing a wall up that has the sheeting on it, and it's a breezy day, you want to make sure you have enough people there to handle that wall, because it's like trying to stand a sail up in the middle of the wind. It's going to catch that wind and maybe take off on you. So you don't want anybody hurt. You don't want to hurt anybody else's property or damage anything. So just be cautious with that. In this case, we just wanted to show you the actual framing process, how to lay it out, how to fasten them in, how to tie in your abutting walls, and that sort of thing. So we've got that all on there. We've got the wall standing, and I don't know that there's much more to show you. I guess I could show you the back on an inside corner. If this was going to be inside a room, like inside your house here, and this was going to be drywalled or something, you know, your inside corners, you may want to add some extra backing in here, usually referred to as an L, and it could be screwed together with these two pieces. And what it does is it forms an inside corner here, so you have somewhere to screw your drywall to. I don't know if you want to come around to this side, if you can see that. So once it's in place, like I said, you have a surface on both sides of the wall to screw that drywall to, so the drywall's not just floating in here. Okay, so you can add that anywhere else that you need some other blocking. And of course, make sure you fasten the bottom of the walls down to whatever you're framing on, whether it be concrete, wood, whatever. With concrete, you can use drill-in, hammer-in anchors, or you know, whatever your local area recommends. Okay, so it's time to wrap up this video. So we've done the video now for some basic wall framing. We've tried to cover things as far as the types of fasteners, some of the building products, spacing out your studs, how to lay it out, all that kind of good stuff. So hopefully you found that informative, and we do have other related videos and articles on framing and such. So if you want to check out our YouTube channel and see our other videos, or click on through to our homepage, our web page, and there you'll also find a forum. If you have any questions to ask about this or any other video, you can go to the forum and ask away. I'll do my best to answer what I can.